That's just by way of what we know about the confirmation that Ken Ofori Atta is on that list. Let's speak to fraud and security analyst Richard Kumado. Mr. Kumado, good evening. Thank you for your time. Happy holiday to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
There are already accusations and allegations, shifting to the lawyers of Ken Ofori Atta that clearly they have not aided the former finance minister in addressing this whole dramatic issue. Would you lay the blame there, or you think that the OSP clearly has overstepped his bounds, considering the fact that there has been correspondence between the OSP, and lawyers of Ken Ofori Atta?
For all investigative institutions and institutions with a mandate to prosecute crime, the Interpol platform is one of the platforms they have. And at all times when they are investigating crime and the frontliners in a particular crime are nowhere to be found, or they have escaped from the jurisdiction where the crime is being investigated, they have the power and the opportunity to activate the protocols on the Interpol platform. So for the special prosecutor, that is what he has done. For Ken Ofori Atta and his lawyers, they will need to speak to themselves and find out whether they are serving his interest, and that interest has been well served. The reason being that the risks of being profiled as somebody who is wanted for crime internationally, or declared wanted for crime investigations, or PGT for that matter, it comes with a huge cost and with dire consequences. The reason being that the Interpol platform can't be accessed by a lot of investigative agencies, law enforcement officers, departments, and individuals who are into investigations. And all law enforcement officers all over the world and their agencies are also going to pick that data and risk profile Ken Ofori Atta, which means that the leaks we saw on the Interpol goes way beyond that of the Interpol surroundings. The second major issue there is that immigrations and financial institutions and border control and all other places that profiling is a professional exercise on individuals, they are going to do so. And to that extent, this profile goes way beyond the individuals like Ken Ofori Atta. It may affect the bloodline, businesses, his associates, and acquaintances, and all other things around him. And at all points, when his name is mentioned or people affected by this simple profiling, issues of financial crime and money laundering and fraud is going to pop up as a red flag. And that is the nature of the complexity and the strict restrictions they are going to place on him. And so to that regard, as somebody who has dealt within this area before, I would have thought that the lawyers would have engaged the special prosecutor more meaningfully, so that he will not be declared fugitive or somebody running away from crime prosecution or crime investigations.
How?
Because you can bring the special prosecutor. It's an option he has, and he has activated it.
How can Mr. Ofori Atta get his name off this list? Can he, for instance, call the OSP and say, okay, I'm returning to Ghana next week or next month, and then by that, his name will be taken off the list? Or it would have to take him being arrested or seen to be arrested, then it would get his name off it?
Normally, what happens is that even if Ghana as a state takes his name off, those other international investigative bodies that has his name, or financial institutions and all entities that deal with profiling, they are going to keep his name. Some can keep his name on their database for like 5 years, others will do 6 years, others will do 10 years, and others will keep his name for life. So at all point, people who are related to him or people who bear the same names or he himself will have some questions to answer, and he should be prepared for that. And that's the damage that comes with being declared wanted for crime or being put out there as somebody who is wanted or fugitive.
Right. Mr. Kumado, thank you so much for giving us some security perspective on this particular issue. This evening, and former Finance Minister Ken Ofori Atta has officially been placed on Interpol's Red Notice list. A Red Notice is not an arrest warrant, but a request to police worldwide to detain someone pending extradition. The notice, made public on the 5th of June 2025, intensifies international efforts to locate and provisionally arrest the former finance minister. Ken Ofori-Atta is currently believed to be in the United States receiving medical treatment. The 65-year-old is wanted on charges of using public office for profit. This marks the second time Mr. Ofori-Atta has been declared wanted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Earlier this year, Ken Ofori-Atta was labeled a fugitive from justice after failing to comply with an official summons related to a corruption investigation, including probes into the National Cathedral project and controversial revenue assurance contract with SML, which is the Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited. And following a correspondence between his lawyers and the OSP, he was asked to be taken off the list, which the OSP obliged. But last week or so, the OSP said that he has had to put Ken Ofori-Atta back on the wanted list because he failed to attend upon the OSP. Meanwhile, the special prosecutor on Thursday at a media engagement, like I indicated, announced moves to have Ken Ofori-Atta extradited following his failure to return to Ghana to answer questions relating to corruption allegations. Let's listen to the OSP the day he made that announcement.
OSP redeclares that Mr. Ofori-Atta is a wanted person and a fugitive from justice. His name is hereby re-entered on the OSP's list of wanted persons. The OSP will take all necessary legal steps to secure Mr. Ofori-Atta's return to the jurisdiction and to answer to the criminal inquiries against him. In pursuance of this, about 30 minutes before this briefing, I triggered processes for the issuance of an Interpol red notice for the location and provisional arrest of Mr. Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta in whichever jurisdiction pending extradition or his surrender. Around the same time, I dispatched a request for extradition processes to be instituted for the provisional apprehension in any jurisdiction in which Mr. Ofori-Atta may be located or found, and his extradition to the Republic of Ghana. From 20 to 21 March, when he said he was going to have the possible medical intervention, surgical intervention, upon which reckoning we indulgently said, oh, take some of the days, recuperate. So he suggested he will come between 14 to 30 May. He said, oh, take a few more days. Come on 2nd June. How friendly can we be? Beyond this, after accommodating you, you sat by for at least 67 days when you knew your condition had changed.
And that's the special prosecutor, KCA Jabing, the day he announced that following the failure of Ken Ofori-Atta to attend upon them for investigations, to assist with investigations, he has been replaced on the wanted list. Now, we also checked following the news that Ken Ofori-Atta has been placed on the Interpol red list. So if you go to the Interpol website and you search for wanted individuals, you would see the second image on the website is that of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, and his full name is there, Ofori-Atta Kenneth Nanaya, with his age 65 years old and the country he is from, Ghana. And the page has names of other wanted individuals there, but our interest is that of the finance minister, former Ken Ofori-Atta. So then it brings you the full details of what you would see when you open Mr. Ofori-Atta's image on the Interpol red notice page. So his name is there, family name Ofori-Atta, his forename or first name is Kenneth Nanaya. His gender, male, date of birth 7/11/1959, meaning he's 65 years old, place of birth Accra, nationality Ghana. Distinguishing, so then there are other parts, so distinguishing marks and characteristics or things you should see on him to know that yes, this is actually the individual. The page says not applicable, so there's nothing there. Then there are physical descriptions of Ken Ofori-Atta. His height is 1.7 meters, the color of his hair, the color of his eyes, and that is how detailed this wanted list looks like. And again, it talks about the language or languages that he speaks. He says he speaks English and Twi, and then the charges have also not been published. So clearly
emerged after the Attorney General filed witness statements that revealed 3 former board members of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund deny approving the scandalous SkyTrain project or payment for the same. You recall that the former CEO, Solomon Asamoah, and former board chair, Professor Christopher Amiyawe Kumfi, are both standing trial for willfully causing financial loss to the state after some $2 million was paid or spent for no work done. My producer, Dennis, has been combing through those witness statements with the proverbial fine-tooth comb, getting us every detail from there. He's joining me here in the studio with all that he has learned from the witness statement. Dennis, good evening to you. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I like how that came out.
Yeah.
A good retort. But, I mean, what are you learning from those witness statements?
Well, so 3 more witnesses are testifying in this matter. We have already seen one witness who is the lead investigator, a staff of the NIB, who is also looking into the whole transaction and will be testifying in this particular matter. What we are learning tonight is that 3 persons who form part of the 9-member board, former board of the GIIF, are also testifying against these 2 in this particular matter. And like you rightly mentioned, they are charged for willful causing financial loss to the state and intentional dissipation of public funds in respect of some $2 million that was paid in respect of a Sky train project that never was. For which reason they are now held accountable for that. So this is Francis Abwaji. He is the lead investigator in this particular matter. And like we indicated earlier before in this program, I mean, his area of testimony basically is going to be on matters that include interviews that he's conducted, also documents that he's reviewed, and also accounts verification. All these are matters that relate to the transaction. So that is his area of testimony. Now, we are also learning that one Yvonne Soa, who was a board member of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund between 2019 and 2021.
2017.
Sorry, 2017 and 2021. That's the time span within which this transaction is purported to have taken place, for which reason they are standing, the 2 are standing trial. And that her area of testimony is going to be in respect of some documents in respect of the train transactions, whether they were submitted to the board for approval or not. Because remember, part of the allegation is that even though this money was paid, there was no board approval for such an amount of money to be paid. So the question arises as to whether indeed there were even documents that were submitted to the board backing this whole transaction. So her testimony will be on matters like that. She will also be speaking to matters that also border on whether the board actually approved the funds or the money that was paid. That's the $2 million in that transaction. There's also one Nana Efua Chewa Ababiu. She's also a board member, also within the same period of time, 2017 and 2020. She is a banker by profession, and her area of testimony in this particular matter also relates to whether indeed there was even a formal request from the management of the GIIF. Now the management will be the entity that is controlled by Solomon Asamoah, who is the chief executive officer, to the investment committee. So there's a subcommittee of the board that looks into investment matters, for which this transaction should have come to them. So she'll be testifying in respect of whether or not there was even a formal request in respect of that transaction before the subcommittee, for the subcommittee to consider. And if there was a recommendation from that subcommittee to the full board for it to approve. Because if there was a matter that was brought to the subcommittee, the expectation is that after their work, they will make some recommendations to the full board. She also testified in respect of those matters. And also, the last part of her testimony would be whether, even if there was an official or formal presentation, whether there was a proposal or whether there was even a resolution that was brought before the full board for such a decision to be made in respect of the $2 billion transaction that we are now learning has gone bad. And also, she also testified as to whether this transaction had the board approval in relation to the disbursements of the funds. For the fact that they are all board members, it does appear that their transactions, their testimonies will seem similar, except in some instances, others will just testify as to whether the money was paid or there was an approval, and others will testify even beyond that to go into matters of subcommittee and all that. So, Cecilia Gabra, also a former board member, between the same period of time, her area of testimony, also on the question of whether the board approved any funding for the Sky Train. So moving forward, these we now know are 4 witnesses that the Attorney General will put before the court to testify in these matters. That's to say, if the Attorney General does not file any further witness statements. We have seen 4 so far in respect of this particular matter. The details are on 3news.com.
Oh, come on. Come on, you're giving us the details tonight, right here. We won't go to 3news.com.
There's a lot more on 3news.com.
That's what wickedness looks like. But no. But on a more serious note, right?
Yes.
What are some of the responses they have given to the questions that have been asked as to whether or not an approval was given?
Yes.
For the project itself,
okay,
whether or not the subcommittee's view was sought for the project, whether or not presentations were done to the subcommittee, and whether or not there was an approval also for the payment for whatever beginning works that $2 million was supposed to go into.
Okay, so the generality of what they've been saying basically is to the effect that they are unaware that such documents came before them as board members to have received any approval for such a transaction to carry on. So that's just the general picture that they seem to be saying when it comes to their testimony. So, I mean, basically, that's what they're saying.
But I one last question, and then we'll take a quick break and come back and look at a rather another important topic on corruption, right?
Yeah.
How does this support the prosecution's case?
So when you look at it, now prosecution would largely rely on the testimony of the lead investigator, that's Francis Abuaji, who has been detailing the nature of the transaction. And the key allegation in here is the fact that the money that has been paid was money that was not approved by the board. So if you have quite a number of the board members, but let's also see, these board members who are testifying are only 3 of 9. In this case, those who are standing trial are the board chair and the CEO, who are also part of the board members. And mind you, they say that that money was approved. So clearly, the one who says that it was not approved would need to show that indeed it was not approved. So it's a burden on them to show that indeed what they are saying is what it is.
Anyway, Dennis, thank you so much. You almost left us on a cliffhanger because I was enjoying the storytelling.
Typically, we have all the details on 3news.com because that's where you find the document.
Please don't do cliffhangers. Thank you so much. Dennis Poberi is my producer here.
Always a pleasure, Kim.
Indeed, on Ghana Tonight. We'll take our very first break, but when we come back, we'll talk about why the African